Long journey means like how long the journey has been.
6 attempts in 8 years.
Just for the listeners, just connect the dots between Mumbai, Pune, Washington, Ayodhya.
Yes, I applied for Masters in Public Policy,
Okay.
got selected to Georgetown on scholarship, and
Hi, Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Toppers Talk. And I have a very special person here. And this person is going to connect the dots between Mumbai, Pune, Washington, Ayodhya, and Raigarh. Interesting, right? And the person happens to be Chandarprabha. She secured 289th rank, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So please welcome Chandarprabha here. Chandarprabha, thank you for joining us. I'll call you Prabha. That's
Yes,
much better.
yes.
Prabha, thank you for joining us.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure to have you. And I'm very happy to see a Mumbai person finally in services. I'm very happy to meet a Mumbai person. So Prabha, how are you feeling? Feeling as sunk in or still sinking in?
I'm feeling good, and thank you for having me here, sir. You've been a mentor, so it's really nice to have a conversation with you. The feeling has sunk in and also not. It's been a very long journey. So I think more than excitement, there's also relief.
Long journey
And then-
means like how long the journey has been.
6 attempts in 8 years.
6 attempts in 8 years. That's seriously a long journey. I really admire your patience because it's really long.
Thank you.
So still the feeling is sinking in.
It sunk in, and also I think more than anything else, more than excitement, I'm trying to keep the eye on the target here, which has been so whatever work I was getting an opportunity to do in public service, I want to scale the solutions even more.
Okay.
So I'm really now connecting the dots on what opportunities this platform is giving me. It's a huge responsibility on
Okay.
our shoulders.
Just for the listeners, just connect the dots between Mumbai, Pune, Washington, Ayodhya, because I'm sure they'll be interested in this. Because Washington, Ayodhya, back to Raigarh, not
sir.
too many do this.
Yes, sir. So Mumbai was my Janmabhoomi. Born there, brought up there. School was Queen Mary School.
Okay.
Papa was in railways, retired as additional chief health director. And so that was the Mumbai story. I was there when the unfortunate 26/11 attacks happened.
All right.
I went to KC College. Then decided to do engineering. Went to Symbiosis International University in Pune.
So that's your Pune connect.
That's my Pune
Okay.
Connect. Pune Connect also was what took me to Ayodhya, because I started the environment cell of our college. And that's where I started enjoying my love for environment and sustainable development.
Okay.
I started researching for an honorable member of parliament, former mayor of Pune, and we then went to study the conservation of Saryu River in Ayodhya.
All right.
That's what took me to Ayodhya. My co-founder was from Ayodhya as well, and I saw what policymakers are able to do, not just to beautify and improve the lives of citizens, but also our environment.
All right.
So I thought that, okay, I'm an engineer, why don't I improve my knowledge in public policy? So that's where I started applying for...
So that took you to Washington.
Yes, I applied for Masters in Public Policy,
Okay.
got selected to Georgetown on scholarship, and landed in Washington, DC. And the river connect also happened there.
All right.
Beautiful Anacostia River,
Yes.
struggling with challenges. And so I was leading the Environment and Public Health team of McCourt School of Public Policy.
Okay.
So there we were working for the conservation of Anacostia River, and I was really lucky to get that experience in inter-country, inter-river exchange,
Inter-river
ideas
exchange,
exchange.
okay.
So I was longing for my Saryu Connect, longing for Ayodhya also.
Okay.
And yeah, so that's what we did in DC. I had the chance to also consult with the New York City Department of Education
Okay.
through the Environmental Defense Fund Fellowship. So there again, I was working on how 1800 plus school buildings could be more sustainable.
Okay.
And then decided to come back. The most natural extension
Yes.
would be to apply for civil services and prepare for the exam.
Okay.
Landed back in June of 2016. Prelims was in August 2016.
Okay. So 2016 you started the journey. 2017, 18 from then on. You've been giving attempts continuously, or you dropped out in between, or what was, how did you go about it?
There were gaps.
Okay,
so,
there were gaps, okay.
2016, fool's hope. I don't know what I was thinking in giving prelims immediately after landing. I think
Okay.
I was doing disservice to the competition, the incredible competition who were preparing for 1.5 years. So I failed that. Thankfully, made it to mains in 2017.
All right.
But didn't clear mains. And then that started really aching for community connect, grassroots connect. So decided to co-found my NGO in Ayodhya with my co-founders Abhishek Singh, Deepa Singh, Vaishali Singh. Ayodhya we landed, and that's when the NGO started groundwork. So,
so basically you took a break after an attempt and you started with the NGO thing. Then you again went back to civil services?
So what happened is I still gave 2018-19.
Okay. All right.
And 2020 and 21, my NGO got designated as the nodal NGO under Niti Aayog for COVID-19 relief in Ayodhya.
Okay.
And that was first and second wave, and we were in the thick of the crisis.
We'll talk about this a little later, but right now I want to know, what are the mistakes you made? Because listeners, for a beginner, what is more interesting is the mistakes that you made so that they don't repeat the same mistakes. Because it's been a very long journey. You've been into it, out of it. So it was a long journey, 8 years, right? So in these 8 years, what mistakes you made which a beginner should not make?
And this has actually been a goal for me, even on my community. I have been talking about how to avoid failure.
Okay, how to avoid failure. Yes, that's a good term.
So basically, the first thing is I didn't take previous year questions seriously.
Okay.
There was this myth that if they have already asked it, why will they ask it again?
Okay.
The second thing was the foundational sources like NCERTs. I took them lightly, thinking that we've already studied it in school.
So why repeat it?
So go for more exotic, more advanced books and just this warm glow of doing difficult things, I guess. And that was a mistake. The North Star in the preparation is UPSC itself. And UPSC beautifully tells us what to do through the syllabus and through previous year questions.
So basically the first mistake people should not do is not to take NCERTs lightly. One. Second one is like not to take PYQs lightly. Okay. What's the third one?
Don't complicate the strategy. It's very simple, and the more simple we keep it, the more...
So when you say simple strategy, what does it mean? It's like keeping your sources limited and doing an intensive prep, or keeping your sources extensive. What do you mean by the word simple? Because students have this tendency, aspirants have this tendency to complicate things. Okay, because the moment you say simple, they have this thing, "Arey, ye exam simple ho hi nahi sakta." So how to simplify it? When you say simple, what does simple mean here?
For me, what I learned was simplicity through just a standard source, maximum 2 if you need it, but 1 is good enough, and multiple reps of that.
Okay.
And because with every layer, we understand the concept better. So that was something that helped me, and not to run after exotic sources, and definitely not to, and we're in prelims heated season right now, so not to run after magic bullets. So what will happen is...
Yeah, I mean, something very interesting. She said magic bullets. I mean, everybody looks for that magic bullets. Everybody looks for the exotic sources. So it's about having one source and doing multiple revisions rather than looking for something exotic and looking for shortcuts, basically.
Absolutely. Okay. The magic bullet, in fact, if there is one, is faith. Okay. Faith in your own preparation, in your own notes, which you will keep coming back to in the final lap. Also, faith in UPSC. It wants to select you if you are...
If you're capable enough, yeah. Okay, if you're all right.
Hard and you have the discipline, it really wants to select you in the questions that to us seem very outlandish or very difficult. What we tend to do is we start looking for the source from which the question came. Okay. But what if UPSC truly wasn't interested in whether we knew that question or not? What if it was just testing whether we maintained our calm, seeing that difficult question and made a good decision just as an aspiring public servant? That, hey, I'm not going to attempt this question. I will keep calm and I will look for the easier ones that UPSC actually expects me to know. So that was one thing. It happened with the history question, and we started chasing a very difficult source, and that wasn't needed. Just maintaining that calm and faith in that stressful situation and just going for the standard.
Standard books, multiple revisions. But people talk about content enrichment. Like, I mean, you have your content has a little different. Fine, my sources remain the same, but you need to add some value also. So how did you add value to your notes?
So this would be mostly for mains, the main stage
mains.
content.
I talk about mains only.
Understood. So for mains, I would say content enrichment for me came from roughly 2 to 3 sources. The first one was peer reviews.
Okay, peer reviews. So basically peer reviews, okay.
There we became a group of 6. So rank 61 Khushali, rank 118 Siddharth, rank 281 Suramya, rank 289 is me, 451, and then Nishant was there, Abhijit and Nishant. So we would look at each other's copies and we would understand how are they tackling the question, and then keep asking each other, hey, why did you do this? So you drew boxes. So we developed a style which is also unique to ourselves, but we learned from each other. So that was one. Learning from topper copies really helped me to see how they were navigating and content and
So basically, first thing is like peer review helps a lot in enriching your content and the way you present your content.
It helped me because I remember my 2017 mains attempt, my answers were very dense, very difficult to read.
Okay.
So I learned the style that my peers were using, and then I adopted that and customized it based on my style. I did that. So that is one. The second source for me in terms of content enrichment was articles in dailies, so newspaper as well. But the trick here is that in the lifespan of a UPSC aspirant's journey, in the 1.5, 2 years, we'll collect a lot of data points.
Yes.
We'll collect a lot of case studies, examples, quotes. It's all there in our head. But I go back to, I think, Sherlock's mind place, where we actually have to then strive to be able to...
Sherlock's mind place. Yes.
Mind palace, actually. I think that's
Yeah,
what he
mind
called it,
palace.
palace. So that whole information universe is there, and how do we pull up a particular data point in the exam stress condition? So what worked for me was two things. First was a very efficient data organization system. So I'm a data person and I work with Excel sheets. Now, not recommending that students need to do that.
No, but I mean, I'm sure there'll be some students who will be very good with Excel sheet and data keeping, so probably it will help them.
So what I did is, let's say, and I take this example, I've read a data point that 70% of our prisoners currently are under trials. I will write it in one column. I will put a macro heading to it. Let's say prison reforms or something, like judicial reforms. And I will have essay, a column of essay. I will have GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4, public administration. Now what I'll do is, I will brainstorm and build my muscle memory on how I will apply that piece of information. So with essay, I would use it. In 23, we had a topic saying, a nation that has justice does not need charity.
So
I will use it there. So I will brainstorm the topics where I can use it. I will look at PYQs and I will see that I could use it here. Second thing, for GS1, social justice, inequality. In GS2, for governance and polity. So GS3, there was a very interesting linkage that I made. Credit ratings of countries also depend on the justice delivery mechanism. So FDI, so that is why GS3 comes. You can apply for GS3. GS4, justice and equality. Public administration, governance and reforms. So that is just one example. But because I've practiced so many times on how to apply it, and I would, between prelims and mains, I would do this exercise before going to bed. And look at my data sheet, and I think it was like, by the end of it, I had 4,000 rows, 5,000 rows, but just exercising my mind, I think I was able to do it in the exam pressure. The second thing was truly being able to emotionally connect with a data point. The neurons wire and fire in the brain, I believe, when there's serotonin or even what is cortisol, the stress hormone being released. So when you do that, I think there's a memory game here that comes into action. What helped me was my NGO. When I would look at, especially public administration, when I would look at the theories and thinkers, I would, like Mary Parker Follett's conflict resolution mechanism. In Ayodhya, we were working on human-dog conflict, stray-dog conflict. And
so basically, you applied what you studied into your field. So that's how you're able to remember things. That's a nice way to look at it. But not everybody will have this opportunity.
That's what I thought when I was actually thinking if my other fellow aspirants can also do this. What I realized is the human mind is a great imagination place. So, and for interview, we do this. They give us situational questions. If you are a DM, how will you handle this? So we have certain data points. What if we just imagine, just give it 5 seconds and imagine you being in that situation and applying that.
So basically your idea was read a concept, try to apply that in a real life situation so that it stays in your memory also. So it's not only about learning a concept, it's also about applying it and you able to keep it here and recall it a little later.
Yes, and really feeling for it from the heart, because that's what we're expected to do as public servants.
It works. It absolutely works. It absolutely works. Okay, now newspapers. How important is it? Newspapers.
Very important. So depends on the stage also. For interviews, very important. Most
Okay.
the stage
Let's
where
take
it's
it
most
stage by
important.
stage.
I'll take it.
Prelims.
Right. So for prelims, I would say there was a point after which I started relying on compilations.
Okay, so that means for prelims, compilations work.
I would say it worked for me. I used to be in the groove of reading.
Because the idea is I want to know what worked for you.
Yes.
Because reading newspapers is a very, very big challenge for every
is.
single aspirant because
Yes.
it takes almost 2 hours a day.
Absolutely.
So for prelims, compilations worked for you, all right?
And as a beginner, I didn't know what to read in the newspaper.
Yes, that's a very good point. As beginners don't know what to read.
Right.
So what advice you'll have for the beginners? What to read in the newspaper? Exactly. Because I'm sure there'll be a lot of kids who will be starting in 2025.
Yes.
So if they're starting a newspaper, what should they read? What should they touch upon?
Keep the compass or the North Star as the syllabus and the PYQs right in front of you, and keep, like, they need to have a good grasp on the PYQs. And I wouldn't say that within the first month they would have the grasp. That doesn't really happen that way. So not to overwhelm, I would feel overwhelmed that I don't know my syllabus
what
well
you're
enough.
suggesting is PYQs, syllabus, map both along with the newspaper.
Yes.
That's how you correlate things.
So the topics would come to life. You will know that this is important
All
because
right.
it was asked in a PYQ, the theme. That is one. And compilations can help because compilations tell us that this was important in the newspaper.
Okay.
So if you,
And don't you think compilations also save time?
I think they're efficient. They were efficient for me. And one thing that can be done is if aspirants are still understanding what to read in the newspaper, you could go for the daily compilation, because that will give a sense that, okay, this compilation thought that this content in the daily newspaper was important, and then over time shift to monthly, because they'll have the groove to identify what is important in the newspaper.
So this is for prelims. Compilations works.
Yes.
And okay, for mains?
For mains too, the hope is by mains we would have developed the efficiency to read the newspaper very quickly.
Okay.
If that is the case, if we can finish newspapers in 30-40 minutes, which is the case with many of my friends, Kushali.
Okay, finishing newspapers in 30-40 minutes.
Yes.
That's like a record time.
It is.
And it's a huge challenge.
Yes, I think
and that requires above average reading and comprehending skills.
That, and just the knack of really identifying the clutter in the whole information piece in the newspaper. But if one cannot do it, it's okay. Between prelims and mains too, compilations can be relied upon. That's
so for mains also compilations works. How about essays? Newspapers and essays. Does it help?
It does. In fact, for essays, I would say there are 3 sources to look out for.
Okay, essays, we have 3 sources. What's the first source? Newspapers are the first source. And what, editorial pages, open-ed pages?
So yes, editorial and op-ed. And what do we really pick out? We pick out good quotes, case studies, success stories, solutions, data points. So these are the things that we look out for in essay.
Okay. So you have to pick out data points, case studies, quotes. This helps, all right.
And with essay preparation, I would say, so in the timeline, if someone's giving 2025, essay preparation would start even though you're not consciously reading essay. You are adding value for essay right from even now. If someone's looking for 25 attempt, I want to tell them that your brain is a common.
It's like a sport.
It's building a lot for essay. So they have to have confidence that they'll be able to tap into the knowledge. That's where the second source comes in. Our general studies that we are already doing, great pool of content for essay. We just have to have the skill of changing that style of applying it in essay. The information is in our heads. The third, which I think is often neglected, is our accumulated life story and our day-to-day life and what we see around it. That it does, and it goes again back to the mind being able to recall and our heart being able to tell us that, hey, this was important, and you feel strongly about it. Because essay is where UPSC wants us to demonstrate 2-3 things. The first being our understanding of the issues from multiple dimensions. The second is our vision and solution orientedness as an aspiring public servant. That's where in the conclusion part we come up with solutions and the forward-looking vision. The third would be originality. Just a flair for, okay, who are you as a personality? So the evaluator really getting, because they are evaluating so many essays, how do you stand out? So these are 3 things for essay, and that's where the life story aspect, the source being our life and day-to-day life, that is where that plays a role.
So basically what Prabha is saying is newspapers are a good source of preparing for essay. Second is your GS itself, provided you should know how to leverage your GS learnings in essay. Third one, which is very interesting, is your own life story, learning from your own life. Actually, that works. You know, that presenting your own life examples makes your essays look more original rather than copied from somewhere. In fact, I would like to see your thoughts, right? So this way your original life story comes in. Okay, yes. Amazing. Now, CSAT, how did you manage that? That's a big challenge.
Yes.
And you come from a humanities background, no, engineering background. So I'm sure reading comprehension may have been a little bit of a challenge for you. CSAT.
All right, so with CSAT, reading comprehension wasn't a challenge, but what was that initially I didn't have a method to the comprehension. It was just that, okay, I'll read it and I'll understand. But what happens when you don't have the method and the technique that they teach in MBA courses is that we get stuck with two options that are very close.
Very close, okay.
That's where the technique comes in.
Okay.
What is the tone of the author? Put yourself in the shoes of the author to understand what is he or she really trying to say. That's when you, at the final stage when we're deciding between the two very similar options, that helped me.
Okay.
So that really helped me make...
So there's a technique of solving reading comprehension.
Yes.
So you have to master the technique because as you said, two options will be very, very close. So the technique matters, okay? What's the next one?
With regards to quant and logic, I was fairly comfortable. I enjoyed the subjects.
Okay.
The challenge was in 2023, it was very difficult. Quantum logic ended up being very difficult. Permutation, combination, it's a concept that I don't really enjoy. One math concept I don't enjoy. I saw that the paper is quite full of PNCs.
Okay.
So what happened is, and another classic mistake I made was when I was doing my exam mode practice PYQ tests for CSAT, I used to do reading comprehension first and quantum logic last.
All right.
Something happened in the last 3-4 days where I scored lower, I believe, in reading comprehension, and not very low. It was just I made 2 or 3 more mistakes than I usually would have. And then I suddenly decided to pivot my entire practice strategy and do quantum logic first and do RC reading comprehension later. Sort of was indisciplined in that, and I go to the CSAT paper and I decide I'm doing quantum logic first despite having practiced the other.
Okay. So what would you suggest aspirants when you're taking prelims, CSAT specific? You should start with quant or you should start with reading comprehension?
So I would say that it really depends on their strengths. And how will they identify what their strength is to do PYQs. So in this last month, I did practice previous year questions in full examination mode. So 9:30 to 11:30, 2:30 to 4:30.
You simulated the exam.
I simulated that, and that's where I realized how the trends. So every question would be analyzed, mistakes would be sort of mapped out, and then I would have my data. So I had my accuracy, and I had which ones I'm making more mistakes in, and I knew that I should do reading comprehension first before. But I mean, it doesn't have to be this data heavy. Also, you'll get a flair for, okay, I'm more comfortable doing reading comprehension first. They'll get that. So that was one. But the mistake here is when you've done so much for aspirants in the last month, they have practiced. In the last 3-4 days, don't change your strategy. That's what I did in 23.
So basically, stick to the strategy that you have. That you practiced. Yes. Okay.
So examination hall, I open the paper and I start with quantum logic. And I'm doing it happy. It's my subject. I enjoy it. And I realize the difficulty level is there. By the end of it, all I had to really assure myself is that don't worry, reading comprehension is going to watch your back. It's there for you. Okay. You've trained in it. And that positive self-talk was something that really helped.
You. Okay.
I think if I had done reading comprehension earlier, and this is just luck, I guess, in the way the paper was made more difficult for quantum logic, maybe next year reading comprehension is harder.
Okay.
But if I had done reading comprehension earlier, I would have felt more positive.
All right.
Now the dip came because quantum logic was not supporting me, despite me being good at it. So the positive self-talk, just keep telling yourself it'll all work out. It's hard for everyone, not just for you. And
so, let's take the whole exam itself. You think positive self-talk is the best way to overcome self-doubt? Because self-doubts will be there.
Huge.
So positive self-talk, does it help?
It really depends on the person. For me, it was one of the things.
Okay.
The support system, it was one of it. Because with self-doubt, you're at a battle with yourself.
Okay.
It's very hard to really shut that demon down, especially 6 attempt, 8 years, watching your life just
pass by, and when you see your friends and
Yeah.
others moving ahead with life. Yes.
So the positive self-talk helped, but the positive self-talk, now I don't want to say it on a pedestal that, oh, be positive and keep saying it to yourself, because you can only tap into that positive voice when you have that ecosystem around you.
Okay.
For me, the other two sources was family and friends, and them telling me that they appreciate my inherent value regardless of the rank, regardless of my success in the exam.
Okay.
And then the third source was, of course, yoga and meditation, and I tapped into it very late in the journey. I think I neglected it, and that's something for aspirants too. Mental health is not just a side note anymore.
Okay. It's a very important point she makes. Beginners, please take care of your mental health, because in the final run, that actually hampers a lot.
It'll make or break the,
Yes.
the attempt. And that's the thing. What I did initially was, meditation. I mean, I might as well spend time reading and
Okay.
doing the thing. I realized that with meditation and yoga, my performance became 2x, 5x. My
Okay.
brain was able to consolidate better. In fact, before meditation and yoga, sleep,
Okay, talking about sleep. Sleep is something a lot of aspirants compromise with.
I was
You know, two things I've seen with aspirants. One, they compromise with the sleep. Second is they have this belief that I have to put in at least 12 hours
My
every
gosh.
day or 13
Yes.
hours every day. You think this works in the long run? Because there are two narratives. One narrative says, yes, you grit it out. Compromise with your sleep, grit it out. The other narrative is sleep, take care of yourself, also nurse yourself.
Yes.
Because in the long run, nursing yourself matters, not gritting yourself matters.
very important. Absolutely so.
So, what side are you on?
I'm not on the grit out yourself, because it's a very long journey. Unfortunately, or God forbid, I hope people make it in their first or second attempt, but I think that is over glorified. And when there are students who are reaching out to me saying, I want to crack it in the first attempt, but I'm like, why put yourself?
In that, yes, you're creating a pressure for yourself.
And it's not realistic.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of glorification that happens that a topper topped it in the first attempt, but then what was the story? Credit to them, it's really good, but everyone's journey is unique. So that's the one thing. So, and 12 hours without sleep, it won't be sustainable in the long run. I did that. I compromised on my sleep, and I would be like, no, I'm just going to study and all of that. The brain is not getting time to consolidate. It's not getting time to recover and repair. And I realized the performance was dipping, recall was dipping because I was compromising on sleep. And I learned that very later. I followed Andrew
So
Huberman.
please listen to this, because it's very important. Don't compromise the sleep, because recovery is important, because recovery helps you in recalling the facts much better. I mean, that's what kids do. You study, you overwork yourself, and finally in the exam situation, you're not able to recall. Why? Because your brain is tired.
Yes. And the other thing is, we are studying while we are awake, but we're actually consolidating. The neurons are wiring and firing in our sleep. That's when all the cleaning process happens and the memories are formed.
Okay.
So very important for memory formation.
What's the advice you'll give to all the beginners here? Because beginners will look for success mantras, your success philosophy, what got you here. Not success, not only here, even with Ayodhya also, even in your work also. So what was your success mantra?
Okay, I'll divide it into two parts.
Okay.
I want to give the more tangible ones first, and then sort of cushion it with the more intangible ones that
okay.
people ignore.
All right.
So the tangible ones, of course, I'll be quick in that. PYQs, standard sources, not to run behind exotic sources, and having faith in your strategy. That is keeping it simple, basically, which I alluded to earlier.
First is PYQ, limit your sources, standard sources, and last is having faith in yourself.
Yes.
Three big things. Okay.
Yes. And the faith is a segue into the intangible part.
All right.
I think we were discussing this earlier as well. The exam is just one way of doing public service, which is hopefully the ultimate goal of every aspirant. There are many other ways, and I had the opportunity through my NGO to do it as well, and it's very fulfilling. Telling ourselves this also assures us that if we don't make success in the exam, we'll be fine and we will still have the purpose that we actually started out for. So that's the main
So
thing.
embracing failure
Yes.
matters.
Embracing failure matters, and just telling ourselves that you can do public service without being a civil
Without being a
servant,
civil
which
servant.
is what we were discussing earlier
Yes,
as well.
true.
So that is the first foundation of even getting into the preparation. The second is, again, self-doubt. We addressed that earlier. Prioritizing mental health as much as the actual tangible studies,
Okay.
because it is what will 2x, 5x your performance and safeguard you.
Okay.
The third being a note for parents and family.
All right.
Mainly because I had that question and I was privileged enough to be shielded from societal pressures because of family and friends. For parents, you are the guardians
So
of.
parents need to understand and support the child in the endeavor.
Absolutely.
Right?
Parents face societal pressure. It's not that they are not facing the pressure too, I get that. But then who else, if not parents, who will really stand up and defend their
Defend
kids
the kids, okay.
to the society? So that's one. Pressures like marriage and everything. I mean, your
I'm
child
sure you
or
must
your
have had all these
yes.
pressures.
Thankfully, not from my family and immediate extended family, but externally people would talk and they would ask because of age as well. So my parents would just stand up and say that hey, she is on a path of her self-actualization.
So let her be.
Yes, and we have faith that wherever she goes, she'll be fine.
All right. So on this note, let me recap. Prabha's mantra is PYQs, standard sources, mental health. Prioritize your mental health. So with this, we'll close today's Toppers Talk. Prabha, thank you for being here. It was lovely. And I'm really thankful for raising this issue of mental health, because mental health is something like a lot of aspirants completely neglect. And I think that's a very crucial part for being successful. So on this note, thank you for listening. Prabha, thank you.